Hi, this is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching, doing the trade review for Tuesday the 8th of July. There we go. I lost a month for a minute. So a couple of important things happened today. So it's always difficult when a range expands all of a sudden, particularly when there's no particular news driving it or there's no news on the horizon that is driving it. And I just don't believe that the data that came out today was the reason why we sold off. We were due and are still due for a pullback. We have lost over the last couple of weeks any kind of sense of a two-way market, right? And as a matter of fact, the trades or the traders that have been doing best have been the ones that have been buying right out of the gate, and any dip can be bought. And this is really the first day where that type of behavior has been punished. Additionally, right, the disappointing part about a day like today, from my perspective, is that right when you get that range expansion, right, that's when it becomes the most difficult to manage those long side trades, but there's the most opportunity. So I want to dive into a couple of aspects that had occurred today, and then also talk about, I have several clients who kind of trade both NQ and ES, and I've migrated a lot of my long trades into NQ recently because it's frankly been going up very nicely, right? But what at the same time, okay, so I want to take a big picture look here really quick to show everyone what I'm talking about. If we look at a 15-minute look, right, we see NQ's actually had pretty decent range intraday, at least enough to pull off a 4 or 5 point trade, even if it's been relatively small, right? Even in these tight days, if you took it out of the gate most days, you were able to find a way to get a good long trade back to the upside. Even on the day where we had the first 30, 45 minutes down, right, we still got responsive buying and pushes back up. And that's what we've all become accustomed to. This has not been a short-term deal, right? And because of this, which has gone on all of last month and back into late May, right, where we've had these consistent drive ups out of the gate. You can see it's just over and over again. I pretty much have suspended taking short side trades early in the day. My focus has been entirely on the long side when I can get filled on the long side, and cautious to the short side. The price that I pay for that is I knew that the first day we get a range expansion, particularly a range expansion to the downside, I was likely to get either, as much as I was working to avoid it, I was likely to either get my, stops, hit with stops, right, or miss the downside completely. And sure enough, there was never a rotation back up in the morning to get a good short side trade in. And I simply don't believe anyone who said, well, we called it short, we knew it was short, and we shorted, and that was the top, and they called the top here, when for the prior 2 or 3 months there was no clear, decisive top. I just don't believe. I think that's bullshit, frankly, and I don't mind saying it. So, and I'll also say, right, that in this period, what had happened was it forced traders, or at least it forced a lot of traders I was working with, right, to migrate from ES over to NQ. So you migrate from a pair, meaning ES, that is inherently has more institutional participation and therefore carries somewhat less risk than NQ does, into NQ because it was giving the trading opportunities and the range to the upside, but is inherently riskier because it has less institutional participation, it has less liquidity, and is more susceptible to moves both like this and to moves like this, meaning illiquid moves. Okay, so enough being said there. If we look at ES over the same time frame, right? So one of the things that you'll see here, if we crunch this up significantly enough, and I will, right, is that this range, so this has been the normal bandwidth. Something like this was back in April. We were getting nice fat range days all the way through here, right? But you can see we've just been getting tighter and tighter. We really just haven't had those huge days. The ranges have been tighter and tighter, and almost all to the upside, right? So what that's done is traders have migrated, whereas before we were getting these nice ranges and rotations back up, right? And if you were patient, you could get a nice rotation lower for a trade back up. Well, that trade has almost gone to nothing. So traders were simply not taking or not even looking at ES for a trading opportunity because it hasn't been presenting it. But in my one-on-one coaching sessions, I've really been pushing my traders to maintain their stats in ES, okay? And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it will come back. It will become very tradable again, right? Even in a lower volatility environment. And so now that I've shown you this, and hopefully this was helpful, I want to get to the point relatively quickly. In NQ this morning, you can see this was my first downside target. We obviously ripped right through it. This is my second downside target, and I did take a trade at this location. I posted before market that this was my first downside target. And I also had pointed out in the market preview, which I'm not going to post because I can't edit it at this point, but that this area was dangerous. This is a poorly auctioned area. Anytime you get a poorly auctioned area, the danger is that it'll trade straight down through it, okay, without a tradable reverse back up. And sure enough, I got caught in that. Now, I usually rely on the size of the stretch to give me a good trade, and this is a 50 to 60 retrace. Normally, that's good for a responsive buy in this area. It just simply didn't happen today. It went for an extended range. We more than quadrupled the average 15-point range that we've been in for the last couple of days. Usually we don't get that drastic an expansion. So what that all added up to for me personally, right, was I ended up taking a trade here in this location, and I took a trade in this location. And in both cases, I used generous stops to give it time to wiggle because I thought we'd have an attempt back up towards gap fill. Also, additionally, I missed the obvious, which was one of the things I'm always concerned about is a gap down, lack of gap fill, or even half gap. No attempt at that, and the first three bars were lower. This was picture perfect, open drive lower, and I just take a mea culpa on that. I should have seen that and either bowed away or if I'd simply waited, as I preach very often, right? Wait till after 9:30, right? You can see that at least I would have been in a area where I could have traded back to the, at least found a way to trade back to the upside. I certainly would have avoided my first two stops. The other thing I want to point out is this thing got illiquid, but I want to show something over here. This same time frame and this same trading activity, when the zones popped up on ES, okay, if you'll look, so there's a couple of rules. We haven't touched on this in a long time. Each zone, I generally like to be able to get my profit within 15 minutes, certainly no more than 25 minutes in my trade. Well, and I said this in the trade review for those of you in the live market preview for those of you that were on and trading in real time. I said, look, we've been in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 minutes. And I entered that trade at 1961 3/4, and I told everyone, this is an excellent opportunity for you to get out of this trade. It's exceeded the time frame, and I should have listened to myself. Didn't do a very good job there. Additionally, I was trying to manage this trade so closely that I totally screwed myself out of into 2 points of additional loss by trying to keep my stops tight. For those of you that were in there live, it's a perfect example of terrible trading with tight stops in ES. Had I simply used my original stop, which was 4 points, okay, 2 points behind the zone, so a little bit less than 4 points, I should have been able to get out of that trade at the end of 25 minutes completely flat, okay, and I failed to do so. I may have gotten greedy. I might have simply been resisting the fact that we were going to have an open drive lower on the day where there was really no significant economic news. Either way, I totally goofed that trade. Okay, I should have been able to get out of there flat. The fact of the matter was, at this point, I'd already taken 2 stops on NQ for 10 points apiece. That's 20 points. That's equivalent of 8 ES points, essentially, right? At this point here, I failed to exit out of this trade, and I was now down 5 by the time I took a full stop here, and essentially 3 points, and I was down 5 points for the day. Really something that I could have easily avoided, and I was a bit out of control there early. Now, a couple of factors have gone into that. First of all, we have an open drive lower. B, I didn't expect us to have a significant down day, so even though I was looking for it, usually we don't have these kind of days with any kind of lack of news to drive us. to drive us one way or the other, right? And I love how there's no reason to go look for a reason. It really didn't matter what the reason was. It's just usually there's a data point that's on hand that opens up this kind of move, or a news event or an earnings event. And that just didn't happen today, and that's all right. I'll just call that an outlier, and I can live with it. That being said, right, I just handled this area completely poorly. I've journaled about it. I've talked to my own trading coach at this point. I know what I did wrong, and I know how to handle it and make corrections for tomorrow. I'm cool. What I did next was really important. First of all, two full stops back-to-back in ES or in NQ, right, stopped me for the day. So I really had one more trade left to take in ES. In NQ, I was already done. I can't stress the importance of not violating your downside trading rules in any particular security that you're trading. It doesn't matter whether you're trading stocks, futures, bonds, what have you. The stops are there to keep you safe, okay? I don't have another way of putting it. They simply are my survival. Look, I've been spending weeks yanking money out of NQ in a positive way to the upside, both in scalps, okay, and in trap trades. I can afford one down day, even 20 points, which is not a big deal. It wasn't but last Tuesday, I think, where I ripped 24 points to the short side in one trade. So if I have one day where I give back 2 trades back to back, again, no big deal whatsoever on my end of the deal. What would have been a big deal is if I refused to accept it and refused to stop trading it. I could have easily dug a larger hole at that point. I caught my breath, and then what did I say next here? Well, my next trade setup came right in here, and I said I was looking for tick divergence, and we got 1 minute tick divergence right into this zone. I'm not going to take, because I want to keep this nice and sweet, short if I can. I'm tired. But right to this point, we had 1 minute tick divergence. I took the trade, top of the zone, 2 point rotation up. I took half my trade off at +2. Okay, I posted this trade in real time on StockTwits and moved my stop to, I actually tried to hold on to the trade and let it come back up for a higher move. I was looking for a reversal down in these areas, and I simply did not get the I simply could not get an extension beyond here. It took a long time. I eventually just simply moved my stop to break even over here. And so I moved at this point my day from down 5 to down 4. Okay, so next trade that came up, again, this is a very simple area. I said in the market preview that I would take the trade if we could get tick divergence into this level. If not, I would shoot for the 1952.25. We got 1 minute tick divergence into 1954.50 exactly. I took the trade, I think, at 1954 and 3/4, 1 tick in front, and it paid me almost immediately with a 2 point rotation higher. I had a choice here. I was down 4 on the day. I could have taken the whole 2 points off. I was really trying to get a stretch out of this area up into this location. I stated that earlier, that I thought we could get to this 1960 to 1962 location. That's what I was trying to target. As it was, because I was down on the day, because I gotten smoked in NQ, really at this point it's kind of compromised my ability to have a really large day or trade it the way I wanted to. I was really kind of pivoting between, well, I'm down more than I want to be, and the opportunity trade. And usually psychologically, you're almost always going to default to, well, let me just kind of get back towards scratch as I can. Now, had I gone with that mentality, I was trying to push, I could have, obviously, my day could have been a bit different. I could have taken the whole trade off 2, and at this point that would have put me down 3, and this would have put me down 1 point. Right here, I didn't handle it that way. I tried to take the longer shot, and so I ended up the day on ES down 3. And then I was lined up right here at 1952.25. I posted that trade. Again, what am I thinking? Well, I've reduced my downsides already. I have shifted. Notice I've shifted. I've shifted from a market where in NQ, NQ is leading to the downside. It's the weaker one. It's thinner, and it's getting railroaded. There's not showing any ability to kind of really get responsive buyers at rotations that would normally provide it on most days. Most days you take a 15-point rotation up or down in NQ over the last 2 months, and you've gotten paid. So what do? I shift to the area that has more institutional participation because I can predict the behavior better in a more volatile market. I can't stress that enough. You can't operate in a vacuum based on what happened yesterday. You have to look and go, wow, the range has really expanded. The speed has really increased. And you have to be able to go to your back pocket and go, I need to switch over to ES because it's providing me more structure. I love ES. You can trade higher volume. It's more predictable in its behavior pattern. It just has to get some kind of rotation. So I missed my fill here. This is a 2-tick difference. I'm going back to look at those numbers to see if I could have done that better. But this is a 2-tick difference. I missed it. I'm not going to pound myself over the fact that I missed it. I would have liked to have caught it. I was playing for the long ball out of this area. And then the last piece was I had pointed out to several of my clients, again in real time, although I didn't post it, that this was the area. Actually, I posted this out in the room, that this was the area either 1960 to 1962 3/4. This was the area I was looking to possibly find responsive sellers in this area, but that this would be tricky. We'd be trapped for the second time on the 1-hour trap trade, right? And that can often generate huge, powerful moves to the upside. And at any rate, I did not take this trade. I wish I had. I did not. I was gone for lunch. It obviously generated a very nice trade to the downside for a total of almost 5 points to the downside to those who got it. Congratulations. But that was a viable trade. I pointed it out before I'd signed off in the room. And this is a key area to get above overnight for tonight. So the last piece I want to leave with is frustration dealing with which type of trade you're taking, right? You have to be careful I always say if you approach the market as if you're trading $100 million, right? You would more likely, because you don't need the money, you'd be less likely to trade days that had smaller rotations. If you had waited patiently and simply looked, the zones operated perfectly. If we traded in a world where we didn't trade anything, the total focus was on ES, right? Look at the count, just if we forget the NQ, right? And we assume that I actually traded it properly. First time into the zone, lack of a 2-point rotation, 25 minutes, you got out either break even or with a small loss. Fairly simple, straightforward. This is the next first touch of the zone, 2 points. This is the next first touch of this location, which I pointed out, 2 points. And then we missed this by a hair. So already, if you just had taken the zone trading platform that I present to people that normally works highly effectively, except for the last month, right? In terms of, because we haven't got any trades set up, right? If you look, first time into trade locations, right? So just follow the bouncing ball. 25 minutes flat. First time into zone, 2 points. First time into this location, it really wasn't a zone, but it was the location I'd highlighted, 2 points. We didn't quite get here, but you could have counted this had we, right? Obviously 2 points. So already 4 points, 4 to 6 points of profit, 4 points for sure, right? And then the last one, right? If you look, the zone's broken here. First time into the zone, back up, rotation down for 2 points. First time into this location from underneath, right? Actually, that occurred right here, and that obviously generated 2 points. This was technically the second time in. It still generated 2 points. The stretch, importantly, was beautiful here. It's important that you start, hopefully we're getting range expansion. You start paying attention to those rotations. This is essentially from 52.50 up to 61. And so that is, let's see, 52.50, 61. Let's just call that 8 points of rotation, right? Nice, big, fat rotations in ES. This rotation down from the high print, 67, down to 52. That is approximately 15 points of rotation. I've been talking about sigma and sigma and a half consistently for you guys that are in the one-on-one coaching. I talk about that consistently. Sigma, sigma and a half, 2 sigma. Perfect example, right? Again, we almost have a full 10-point rotation back up into the zone, provided a good short to the downside. If you keep your head about you, really the only reason this is a poor day is because of how I handled the first few trades in the AM. Otherwise, I could have just, it would have been just a fine day had I traded ES, had I traded that first trade properly and didn't have to dig out of a hole. I want to go to another point, and I want to use myself as an example. So when I'm trading in real time and I'm trying to explain things, okay, it becomes very difficult to focus on what I'm doing, explain what I'm doing, and execute what I'm doing properly. And I'm aware of that. And I'm going to stop and think how I can better handle that to better serve, well, myself primarily and my coaching clients and subscribers secondarily, because if I can't help myself, I can't help y'all, right? I really don't like how the trade worked out this morning. I'm not worried about the NQ. I was fine taking the losses there. That trade's paid me fine, but and I'm fine taking the loss there, and good leading by example will stop trading that for the day. No worries. But I do have a problem. I do have a problem with the way I traded ES in that first trade, and had I handled it a little bit differently, it would have set up my day very differently. Also, I'm cognizant before I'm too hard on myself that had I simply garnered the trade from this location, that obviously I was looking for the long ball here, and I had a potential 8-point trade to the upside. I was trading for that, and that's fine. But even without that trade, I should have been able to garner 4 to 6 points in profits for the day, and instead I ended up the day -3 on ES. So a little bit of changes might be coming in the next day or two. I'm coming up on vacation here pretty soon, and I'll have time to think that through. If you had a bad day or if you had a hard day, I want to stress a couple of things. First of all, if you're not making money, paper trade. If there's a large variance between your results as a paper trader and your results as a real money trader, right, stop and take a very close look at what the differences are. Something's going to be different there. Either the stops you're taking, the entries you're taking, how aggressive you are or are not, right? One of the keys with a smaller account is smaller traders seem to have the harder time simply waiting for their setups to come to them. Larger traders don't. That's a big deal. Okay? They say, hey, I'm relaxed, I can wait, but they want to make every trade work. This market, I don't care what anyone says, has been a hard market. One-way markets are hard to trade. Okay? And the reason why is because you tend to make small profits day by day, and then you get smoked, right? Then you get smoked the first time the range expands, and that's why I've been cautious. The biggest proactive thing I've done has been to suspend my downside trades. Now, hopefully, we're opening up to more downside possibilities or more of a two-way market. We'll find out very soon. But my assumption is we're going back to a narrow range starting tomorrow morning. Okay? Hopefully, that's not true. But I am prepared for the fact that we may be going back to a narrow range, and but I'll make preparations for both narrow and wide ranges. Okay. The other thing that I want to say is get your stats up first on paper trading. Then when you go to real money, use that as a baseline to compare what you're doing, right? And then also be aware. Use this experience if it was a down day. Use this experience as a learning experience so you profit from it in years to come. When ranges get real tight and narrow, look, this is not the first time this has happened. Early January, we had the exact same problem. It got real narrow and then it got wide, okay? What traders will tend to do will be migrate from less aggressive trades to extremely aggressive trades, and they're forced to if they want to make a profit because the less aggressive trades aren't giving them the rotations they need to make the money they want. More conservative traders or more confident traders, I'm not sure which one is the right word there, will wait for the range to expand like on a day like today, and those who did on ES got paid extremely nicely. So I hope that helped. At any rate, my name is Simon. I'm a Trade and Perform Coaching. I give myself I'll treat myself nicely and say that actually I originally gave myself a D- on execution this morning, but I'm actually going to upgrade myself to a C+ because I really corrected myself pretty nicely in ES, and I gave myself an opportunity for a shot to the upside. My last shot didn't work, right? And also I stopped trading NQ when I hit my 2 stops. That was hard to do, particularly because there's a short that had set up about the middle of the day, and you can kind of see it setting up short, and I failed to take that. I didn't fail to take it. I chose not to take that trade to the short side, and it was pretty clear. And I actually had a profitable day on CL, which kind of helped minimize some of the pain I took in NQ. It didn't wipe it out, but it cut into it decently at least. So anyways, I hope this helps out, guys. I put a lot of work, love, and effort into this because I want to see the people I'm working with, the people I'm helping, I want to see y'all do better as traders. It's the only reason I do this. Okay, I'm not a miracle guy. I'm not a 100% trader, and I don't call trades an hour after they've worked out and said, "See, I told you so." I try to make it real, right? And that involves integrating your ability to manage your fear and your emotions combined with actually having an edge and an execution. It's not enough just to be able to put up zones. Does not fix up trading problems. There's a million great charting guys out there, and most of them can't trade. And that's because there's a big difference between trading and charting. They're two separate skill sets. Anyways, I hope everyone has a great night, and I will be there bright and early tomorrow morning, and we will do this again. So talk to you soon.